Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Singles Connect podcast. Thank you guys for joining us. Tonight, we're going to here to chop it up again. It's just myself and my handsome co host, Akan the King. And we have another exciting show to bring to you guys. And as I said, we're going to chop it up and see if we can have some practical, in depth conversation, but also factual along with the practical sense and everything. And if you're first time with us, don't forget to subscribe, to like, and to share. And if this is not your first time and you have been here with us for a while, just stop dating us. Just commit. Just hit the subscribe button, share, like, give us your feedback, follow us on social media. Let us know what you think about the topics that we're discussing, how it's helping you guys. We're all growing, we're all learning. We're not experts here by any stretch of the imagination. We just try to come every day and have open and honest and transparent conversation, and just trying to give nuggets of what we have learned in our lives, and not just from our life, but other people's lives around us, because you can also learn lessons from being an observer in life too.
Yeah.
So we just try to bring that knowledge to you guys as a community, and hopefully we are all growing here together. So, without further ado, I guess we're going to jump into the topic tonight. And tonight's topic is prenuptial agreements in relationship. And we're just going to dive into, our thoughts, our opinion on it, whether we think it's something that is necessary or if it's something that is unnecessary, and if it's something that is kind of like put a damper, or something. Some people have bad stigma on things. If it's one of those things you're like, oh my gosh, they're asking for a prenup, I'm not walking down the aisle, like, why are we even having this conversation? It's a scary moment. So we're going to get into it. All right, Akan. So yeah, so tonight's topic is prenuptial agreement in
Mhm.
relationships. So I guess you can let me know how you feel about that. Like, when you hear the word prenuptial agreement, what is the first thing that jump out at you? Is it like a for the culture words that they use now? Is that like a red flag for you to run in the next direction if the other party brings up a prenuptial agreement to you?
Well, the first time and thank you, Stacy. The first time that I stumbled on the word of prenuptial agreement or prenup, honestly, it was based on what the culture was saying. It was based on the fact that like they're trying to protect their thing. This is an agreement, and if you guys don't know what a
Mm-hmm.
prenuptial agreement is, it's an agreement between couples on how to split, properties or things that they have, whether in the marriage or how is it going to go out during a divorce or in the case of death, and how they want to go about properties and belongings legally. And some people feel the need to do that a certain way. So I definitely say, but then like reading up on it, I think people have valid reasons for wanting to have prenups,
Mm-hmm.
and I think where it applies, I think it works, but I think we've had positive cases or positive outcomes of prenups, and we've had negative outcomes of prenups. But I think the negative outcomes have been more, you know, the thing, when it comes to prenups. And so whenever people just hear prenups, it's like, yo, this is something's not right, or this person feels a certain type of way. But yeah, I definitely think there's a reason where the origin came from, because I feel like back in the day, prenups were not so common. Prenuptial agreements were not so common, but now it's an actual thing, and we know the world has evolved, and so that's definitely something that I think we should talk about and just see how this became such a thing, and look at the elements of it.
Okay, that's a good perspective, and I agree with you, Akan, that back in the day, when your parents, my parents, and probably their parents were getting married, prenuptial agreement was not a thing. But here was what a thing was back then. You had marriages where arranged marriages was a
Mhm,
thing.
mhm,
Those marriages, they married for wealth building, they married for cultural, social, because there are certain types of wealth. You have social wealth, you have community wealth, you
mhm,
have economical wealth, which that's the money piece of it. But you also have, in like, if you read some of those wealth books, they talk about different types of where people are rich or where you have assets. It may not always be in the economical part, which is the money part, but you have wealth in community. They call it social wealth. You
Mm.
have wealth in resources, which means that the things you have access to. You have, or a capital. Sometimes they call it capital too. They may use different words. So back in the day, they may not have had prenup, but what they did have was arranged marriages. They got into marriages based upon how is this economically going into benefit our family in terms of keeping wealth in
Yeah.
the family, in keeping that common interest in the family, whether it has to do with tribe, culture, and again, as I said, wealth and money. So, and allies, two families joining together, they're looking 10, 20, 50 years down the road. How is that as a generation is going to carry? So, in a sense, it may not be prenup, Akan, but when I look at stuff like that, it's kind of like that's what they were doing. It wasn't just about just the marriage for them. It was also they were looking at the practical part of it that has to do with this contractual piece of how this is going to benefit us later on. And that's when you now look at take the modern day aspect to it of the prenup. The prenup to me is protecting the wealth value in that family. Like if I build a certain amount of assets, I build a certain amount of wealth in my lifetime, or my family passed on a certain amount of wealth or asset to me, the purpose of them wanting a prenup is so that this person doesn't come in and take advantage by taking away from what they have built or destroying it or squandering what they have built. So they put these guidelines and things into place. To me, when I look at what they used to do in the the generations before, when they had these marriages where they're arranged based on culture, based on keeping wealth in their family, it's kind of the same thing that they were doing. They were just doing it in a different two separate of the coins, but
Mm.
kind of with the same I guess mindset, or kind of the same structure, but just different outcomes or different patterns to the deal. I hope I'm not far fetched off, but that's where my mind was going when I was thinking about this earlier. Like they didn't have prenup, but they had this, and they were doing it because of these reasons, and they did these things sacrificially too, because sometimes the people even didn't meet each other, they didn't like each other, but they understood sacrifice. They understood that this is the marriage is bigger than us. This is about generational wealth. This is about alliance. This is about keeping our culture together. This is about
Mm.
building our community. This is about our social and our social capital. This is about our community capital. It's they understood that element. So that was where my mind went when I think about why people get prenups now. That people are trying to protect their community wealth. They're trying to protect their family capital. They're trying to protect themselves from someone that this has nothing to do with love or the emotion in the relationship. It really has to do, in most cases, it has to do with protecting the assets, whether that was inherited or something you worked for, that they're trying to make sure that at the end of the day, because we've seen where marriages have turned the best of people into the worst of people.
Mm.
And we've seen people just, you can't believe these are the same two people that loved each other when things are not going right, and they're not fighting fairly anymore, and they're ripping and tearing each other apart. They forget why they got together. So people put these things into place to protect themselves and to protect the things that they've worked hard for, or the things that they have inherited, that was is off the back and sweat of their parents and their parents, and however they gain generational wealth within their family.
No, I hear you, Stacy. I hear what you're saying. I do think you're right on a certain level, but I do feel like back then,
Mm-hmm.
definitely, I think it was definitely still the same thing we have. I think the rich folks sort of like did that based on, but I don't think it's quite the same thing as prenuptial. I know it's not the same, but I feel like
Yeah.
it was more for the. I think it wasn't just. It was much more just more than the word. I think it was also for the values. Like people would find people who shared the same values and sort of
Yes.
like have their people marry, and that sort of like took out the doubt of like even if this person went astray, they won't go astray us to this point because we knew the values of their family it won't be terrible, you know. Whereas I see prenuptial more on, you know, the part of just protecting. And you know, in the examples or in the type of marriages that we've seen today where prenups have been drawn, there's usually a huge gap between the person who is proposing the prenup and in terms of their wealth, and the person who is not.
The person
We
that is
have different
asking to be signed.
examples. We have different examples. We've seen it, you know, I heard cases of the whole Janet Jackson, and we have different examples. We have examples at least.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. Yeah.
So, you know, so like it's there. And so for me, I just
Wow.
think that
Interesting you brought that up.
yeah, it is. And you know, you have these examples, but then when I look at like the wealthy, even the wealthy we talk about, I don't really hear about prenups of the super wealthy. Like even like Jeff Bezos, we do know that he left the, you know, but she took like, and he was like, yo, she deserves it. Like this is what she worked for. This is her stake, and we know about her giving all that money. You know,
But in
family.
that, not to cut you off, but in that situation, Akan, they started from nothing though. We're talking about families that are coming from old generational monies.
But
95% of those marriages that they have now, there's a prenup involved.
that's what I'm trying to tell
He's
you.
built his business out of his garage. When he and her were together, he didn't foresee that this would have been, because I promise you right now, if he gets married again, I guarantee you he's not going into without a prenup. I
Which
promise you.
enforces my point. My point is that the prenups, marriages without the prenups, even though it's gone to a place where they build so much wealth, it
Hmm.
hasn't necessarily turned out drastic. It's more people, but I feel like that dynamic alone can be a challenge
Hmm.
for whoever is coming in, right? And it not probably not a challenge in the sense if there can be a good reason for it, but it
Yeah.
can be a challenge if what is insinuated by doing that prenup.
Okay.
And that's my point. You know, it's like, what is the insinuation of that? You know, what is the level of acceptance of you from the person who you're being with or the family? And I'm not saying people don't go through with it. I believe it applies where it applies. I believe if you want to do it, that's fine. But I definitely know that that part can be there, right? And to each his own, you know, to each his own. But you know, we can talk about the things, but I just feel like when I look at the top power causes, even like Bill Gates and stuff, you know, I don't see that, right? So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic.
So it's okay. So you just touch on the benefits. So here are some of the benefits that I found because you just asked about the benefits. So some of the benefits that I found that was listed was peace of mind,
Hmm.
reduce conflict, and you and I was discussing that earlier before when we I was talking about I think when we're talking about finances, because this prenup is about financing too, that's the whole point of it. About the four accounts that I think a couple should have between them. And
Yeah.
that gives the relationship not just honesty, transparency, but also the trust, where you don't have to worry about certain things. And I will give some example of that Akan and I was talking about off air. But back to the benefits. The first one is peace of mind, and we all know peace of mind to me is like it's there's no replacing peace of mind. That's like it's nothing better than it's like gold. And then we have the reduced conflict, protection of individual interest. It has fairness, communication, and transparency. And those were like the main five things that it listed. Also, it talks about volunteer agreement. It talks about forcibility, which the forcibility is where prenup must be in writing and meet specific legal requirements to be enforced. So like but those are like things falls under the things you should consider when getting a prenup. But the main benefits of the prenup are the one, two, three, four things that I listed, or five things that I listed. And all of those five things to me is provide sleep and it provide peace. Sakan and I was talking before because we were talking about this whole prenup, and he said if it applies, applies. If it don't, it don't. And some people may say well, somebody want a prenup and they don't have anything. But again, if you if you can imagine your life, I think you can build it. So let's say you have somebody that knows where they want to be in 10, 20 years from now, and they're putting in little steps and little things to get there. And that person right now, you're looking at them, oh, they have nothing, but they're like, if I get married to you, I want a prenup. And you're probably like, but why? You don't have anything. Like, what are you trying to protect? Because this person has said, if you can imagine it, you can see it, you can build it, and you can become it. 20 years down the line, he does become a multimillionaire because he
Mm.
imagined it and he can see it. And he was like, yep, see why I wanted to put that prenup in place, because in case this doesn't work. And
Right.
I'll give you an example. So I had a coworker once, Akan, and this
Mm.
man was married to his wife, and he was in the military, she was not. He did 25 years in the military,
Mm.
and they the marriage ended because she had an affair. Now, when the marriage they're getting separated, the divorce was tied up in divorce court for 3 years. 3 years. And the reason behind that is because they were fighting him trying to keep his retirement pension. She wanted, and he was adamant about this, that they had no children together in that 20 some years of marriage, and within the time frame that he served in that 20 some years in the army. He said he's the one that has been deployed. Every time he had to be deployed, he's
Mm.
the one that put his life on the risk. He has bad knees now and all of that because he was a jumper. So most of he was like special forces where they're
Mm.
jumping out of planes and doing all of these tactical things. So his knees are like completely jacked up. He left her once you found out about the extensive affair that she was having with this person for however many years or however long it was. um he decided to walk away from the marriage. Now he left her with the house that the premarital home. He also left her with a car. He ensured that the car was paid. He paid off the car out of his 401k so that she wouldn't have to worry about the car and worrying about the mortgage, because he said the house was
Mm.
literally almost paid off because that's one of the goal that they set as a couple. So he left her in good economical standing. He didn't take anything out of the house. She can
Mhm.
have all the furnishing and all of that type of stuff. She still wasn't happy with that. She wanted half of his military retirement fund benefits. You know, when they retire, they get their benefits. They look
Yeah.
forward to, I think, whatever their retirement payout is going to be. She wanted half of that, and that's what tied up the divorce legality for 3 years in court, because he thought that was unfair, and that she never, as I said, has never, the thing, if you talk to him, he's always said never been deployed. She's never jumped out of a plane. He has how many wounds, from bullet wounds to this, that, and this. She's never done. And although she was the one that broke the marriage vow, she was the one that betrayed this union, and he did all of this and walked away making sure that she was still okay. She wasn't satisfied.
Mm.
So he met someone else, and he and her were together for quite a while. I've met the new fiance. Well, they're now married. And when he was getting married, this time around, although still not a wealthy man, still a regular everyday person like me and you working, except that he's military, so he has his military benefits and all of those things to look
Mm.
forward to in his old age. He got a prenup this time around because of what happened to him the last time. And in just he had to end up settling with her. Maybe she didn't get half, but she still got a percentage of that money that she never invested in, and she had nothing to do with. This was all what came out of his salary, what he invested through out of his 20 some years for that money.
Mhm.
um he still had to settle with her because his now current wife is now dating her, and it's been like, what, you're been tied up in 3 4 years going on legality trying to get us finalized. We're together, we're engaged, she's wanting to get married. So for the peace of this current relationship, he had to just kind of settle so he can move on. But with her, the new wife, he got a prenup. And pretty much the prenup, because when I was reading it, because we were talking about it in the office, and his lawyer came by and he had that, and I'm looking at the paper, it literally said, Akan, and I kid you not, everybody leave the same way they came into the marriage, because this new wife that he has, she's not coming from wealth either. she's a regular person, whatnot. I mean, they're renting, and he's the sole, mainly the main breadwinner in the relationship. He's looking forward to buying a home with her, which they now have a home, by the way. So he bought a new house with this person, but the new prenup that she had to sign said you leave the way you came, and anything they acquire together, it's gets split down the middle. But going anything after, again, going after anything he had before is off limits.
Mm.
So I know I ramble a lot, but I just had to kind of paint the picture and tell that story as to say that we're talking about regular people. That some two people, because sometimes people might like, oh, prenup is for wealthy people. It doesn't apply to
Oh,
us regular folks, or it doesn't. But I'm saying, if you can imagine your life, sometimes you can. If you can see it and you can imagine it, then you can build it and you can become it. So if
but it
if he
enforces my point.
yeah, yes, yes, yes.
It enforces
And
my
I've
point that
heard of
most
another
prenups
true
come.
story
Mhm.
of a guy. He married a girl while he was in pre-law. And part of their agreement is that he decided that he wanted her to sign a prenup before they get married, because this man is thinking 50 something or whatever years down the line, he's going to be a wealthy lawyer. So if
Mhm.
this doesn't work out, his heart, sweat, and tears of whatnot, I guess the way he's looking at it and what he's going to work to sacrifice to get to where he wants to get to, in case it doesn't work out, he's going to protect himself. And she signed it. And that this, both stories I'm telling you, is a true story. And
Mm.
they're doing very well right now,
Mm.
very well as a couple. This is another couple that I worked with, but this is the girl that I worked with, the husband, but he
Mm.
wasn't when they met. And he's doing very well right now, but that was a part of the stipulation, because I guess he knows this is where I am right now. Yes, I'm a starving law student, but 50, 20 years, 30 years, whatever the number is down the road, I'm going to be worth something, and I'm going to
Right.
make sure I protect myself, that you're not just in this because you're looking down the road.
Yeah, but for me, and I hear the stories you've told me and everything, but
Hmm.
yeah, I pick out stuff, and I don't want to judge anybody. But
Right.
I think it goes back to taking being responsible and taking accountability for the person who you're trying to be with.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's like Stacy, let's just be serious, man. This is a case of trust.
It is. It
This is
is.
this is a case of trust and lack of trust, right? And and that's what I'm saying. But it's like, okay, I don't want to take the patience to know if you're going to be this type of person. I don't want to know. Oh, people change. Well, then, so, I would do a prenup if I just knew that you were unstable, and this was what it was, and I'd be like, okay, if you want to enter, but then that means that I'm not wholehearted in that. That means I do not love you wholly. So maybe we need to have a conversation of, people want different things. People have
Hmm.
definitely different definitions of a marriage, matrimony. And so, based on their definitions on the things they want to do, because mind you, a prenup can also be used as a control tool,
Yes.
especially when the person is super wealthy and the other person is, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to do whatever I want in this marriage. You want to go, go. You sign the prenup. It can be. So, it can become a negative tool in the hand of someone. And so, my question, or what I think about, is like, what are you thinking when, before you get to this point where this person is feeling like, oh, listen, like, I want to sign this because I want to take care just in case this doesn't work out. I don't know, man. Like, but I mean, to each his own. But for me, it's just
Hmm.
like, did you do the diligent work of vetting the person that you're gonna be with? Did you really see the person? Because I just feel like a lot of, I mean, we know, like, prenup or no prenup, listen, divorces are going on,
Yeah.
relationships are splitting, because it's the coming together of two people. So I just feel like that could still affect the dynamics of that relationship, and different things could pop up in that relationship. And I think it just comes down to a choice of, okay, is this the type of relationship you want to have? If that's the type of relationship you want to have, fine. That's why I say it applies where it applies. It doesn't apply where it doesn't apply. You know,
Oh gosh.
yeah.
Well, I hear you on the trust thing, but I sometimes do think, though, like, I think if I am a wealthy person, um, an extremely wealthy person, even if I'm not like an extremely wealthy person, that I wouldn't be opposed to, if I'm asked to sign a prenup, I wouldn't be opposed to signing it, because I know who I am. I know, I guess, my character, my integrity, and why I'm here. And I don't necessarily think that sometimes it has anything to do with trust, too. As I said, it has to do with, too, sometimes people, um, I guess, fear. The That's one of the things that you mentioned on the last episode that we recorded last week, when you were talking about sometimes, often a lot of decisions we make, or the choices that we make those out of choices, we make them out of fear. And I
Mm,
guess people may also say, someone else that may be listening, that may say, well, is it really fear? Because when you decide to get a job, there are certain contractual things that you sign to be employed that you have to abide by,
mm,
as a contract worker or whatnot. So you, or any employee, there are certain things that, now most company are having you sign a social media agreement where you can't
yeah.
post certain things, you can't do certain things. So everything we do in life now has some type of stipulation or an agreement that you have to comply with. So, I guess if we look also, even though I personally, marriage was created by God, it wasn't created by men, but we do live in a world that is a world that is run in the practical sense, a world that is governed by a lot of things that is not really heavenly realm. So you kind of have to operate in that. So I guess, I don't know. I think it's the whole prenup thing is kind of, it's not
It's a
a, I don't think it's
protection
a
thing.
hard conversation to have, but I am with you that it applies where it applies, and it goes where it goes. And
Yeah,
I personally, I don't have an issue with it. I really don't,
yeah.
because everyone, I think, has something that they want to protect. Going into relationship, we all know that relationship is a risk. No matter how much you vet the person,
Hmm.
there you
Hmm.
still going to take a lifetime to get to know
Yeah.
that person. You're never going to know everything about this person, and we're all grown, we're all evolving, as especially if you are with somebody that is an intentional person, that's somebody that is a
Hmm.
visionary of, somebody that is into learning and striving to show up as their best self every single day. You're going to grow, you're going to change, and all of that type of stuff, and we hope that those changes are for the better. That's the thing. You just don't know. No matter how much vetting you do, you just trust what you see in front of you right now. You trust your instinct, you trust your discernment, and you trust what this person is showing you currently. Because again, it still takes a lifetime to get to unpack everything. I think one of my favorite pastors said, you what you when you get married, sometimes you marry the version of the person that you have never seen. He said that's what you're marrying. You're not marrying who you see right now. You're marrying the version of the person that you have yet to discover. And he said, if you he was giving a counseling session, like he was trying to say, if you go into the marriage with that mindset, then you won't be so thrown off when this person changes, or this person takes a detour or something like that, because you said you're not marrying what is in front of you. You're marrying the version of the person that you don't know, the person. You're marrying the version of the person that you haven't seen yet.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, you're right, and that's why like I keep saying, this applies where it applies. But when you were mentioning the benefits, and you'd be like peace of mind, I'm
Yeah.
like peace of mind.
Oh.
I'm like peace of mind from who?
Well,
Peace
peace
of
of
mind
mind
from
for
what?
yourself. Well, peace of mind, Akan, that I okay. Let's read what it says. So,
There's
it,
already a challenge. I think for me, it's like, why am I even going to put myself through that if I do not even see you as somebody? Listen, marriage is a better for worse situation.
Mhm.
It's a risk. It's a better
It
for worse
is.
situation. So, and even in the things where you're saying where you're going to be, like I said, and this was what I told, when I was having a conversation, with someone very close to me, and I said, listen, like, if I go in with you, like, and this is what you feel like you want to do going down the line, and that, I mean, I believe in God, so be it that, this is what you want to do. I
Yeah.
definitely believe in myself. I believe in making myself happy and, living my life. And I know it can be crazy when, somebody's wrecking the other partner. But the God that I trust, and I'm not, and this is me being real, and in the ability that I know of myself, I will rise to the occasion if that is. But I'm just saying that um, you taking this person's background into consideration is important.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing where this person has been, knowing the families that they're from, these things can help for you to know, because I don't think anything beats absolute trust. And I know the Lord says, put your trust in God only, trust in no man.
Yes.
But I
Right.
believe in agreements. And I believe even in a marriage, you can still make other agreements that are not necessarily a prenup. So maybe protecting some of the things through trust and saying,
Mm-hmm.
listen, based on this, we said, if this should happen in this case of a trust, this person can't take this,
Right.
except it's approved by this, or except she does this, except it's with this intent. I think there are other healthy ways that you can do that, especially when there are kids involved. Okay, if this kid doesn't get to this age, if the mother is not taking good care, if this is something, this can't go this way. The trust can do that. I just feel like with the prenup thing, it just changes the whole dynamic. But
Mm-hmm.
to each his own, and I feel like it applies where it does, and there's benefits to it for different people. But I do think that the majority of people who do that from experience, and do that because of what they've experienced, and a lot of them do that because of fear, protecting
Yes.
themselves. But I feel like you should actually confront that issue of mistrust of the person that you are staring in front of. That's why I say, if I want this person and there's some things that they have, and I know that they have it, but I feel like there might be some clauses that I'm not sure about. Sure, I'll definitely want to I'll go the prenup route, because I feel like, okay, I'm not sure. But if I feel like I want all of you, and you are the person that I feel like I want to grow with, and everything that comes with you, you're good, you're bad, and everything, I'm good with it. I'm not thinking about
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
So I think it applies. It's not a bad thing, but you just gotta look at the dynamics of it sometimes. So that's what I'll say. uh,
Okay. Well, I hear you and I receive everything you said. Yeah, I like your perspective. So this is what they said when we were talking about the peace of mind, just to give you a little bit of definition and more context. It said, knowing that your financial arrangements are clearly defined can provide a sense of security and reduce stress within the marriage. Now, they say, what is the number one reason that they say why cause for marriage, for breakups up in marriage?
Finances.
Right. So again, let's say, as you said, it applies where it applies. I don't think it's a bad thing. I really
Mm,
don't think it's a bad thing to me, and I necessarily don't have any issues with it because I can see some of the benefits in it.
mm,
Especially I said depending on where you are economically and especially or where you think you're going and it goes I was talking to yeah okay guys, so I mentioned before about the 4 accounts that I was still in account about that I think every couple should have, that I think also kind of helps too with the
mm,
financial stuff and agreement, causing some of the friction out of a relationship. So I think there should be one account that you
mhm.
guys pay the household bills from. You
Yeah.
guys determine how much is coming from each paycheck from both individual that is going to go into that account based on your income level.
Mhm,
Because if you're making say 20,000 a year and I'm say making only 60,000 a year, I don't think we should both be contributing the same amount to that household account when our income you make twice as much as me. That's
mm,
just my mindset, the way I think about that. So I think you guys as a couple decide on the percentage
mm,
based on the your income level, and that's where the household expenses get taken care of, is from that account. Then you have a savings account between that both of you have, that no money can be moved from that account without both signatures. So no one can just go to the bank and withdraw money all willy-nilly and
mm,
neither one of you know about it. It requires both signature in order to move any money from it. So that's account 2. Account 3 is where you guys have your miscellaneous account. This is where you travel from. This is where you pay help family from in family emergencies,
mm,
etc., etc. That's the third account. The fourth and final account is where each couple have their own individual account,
mhm,
and you can spend whatever money you want from that account without having to check in with the other person. It's your money to do whatever you want to do, and no one can dictate to anyone about how you spend your money from that or what you're doing with your money. To
Yeah.
me, my brain, how my brain works in thinking about finances in relationship, I think that's a discussion every couple should have
Yeah.
when you're getting into a relationship or a marriage and you're joining assets and merging together. And it depends too, again, on your economical background in terms of your income level to even to determine if you can have those four accounts, because maybe you cannot in the beginning. Maybe you can only do the checking that the bills get paid from and the savings. You don't have the luxury of doing a miscellaneous account and also an individual account. Again, that also ties into where you guys are financially and how much money you're making between the both of you. But I think all of this conversation need to be had, and how things are going to set up, or whether or not, and even the prenup, you discuss all of that to me when you're discussing the finances in a
Yeah.
relationship. Yeah, and it said it also reduced the conflict. The same way that they think that the prenup reduced conflict, because that this person, which that that was strange to me when they said it reduced conflict, because I'm like, okay, what are you guys arguing about every day for it to reduce
Right.
conflict? I
Right.
mean, are
Because
you,
because it must
how
mean,
is it?
and I know finances cause issues in the relationship, but it must mean that the finance is such a huge thing for you guys. You
Yeah,
know.
exactly. That was when I was doing the research and looking up, and it said it reduced conflict. Took me back, and it made me. I'm like, okay, but a prenup is in the event that something doesn't work, and we're thinking maybe 10, 20, 30 years down the line. Why is it causing conflict
Because
right now? Like, what could you guys be arguing about every day regarding a prenup, that signing a prenup would not cause conflict in the marriage?
because if I'm
Like,
being
I kept
honest,
trying to wrap my mind around that.
right, if you're being honest, especially like in the way we are in the world and someone signs a prenup,
Yeah,
if I get in the
yeah,
prenup and I say, listen, I want to be of bad behavior, you know, I want to do whatever. No, but let's we have to talk about these things. It can influence,
right.
especially like let's say, and I don't want to like make all of us look bad. Like man, we know how it is. Men get the bad rep, and the man is like, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
want to sleep around now. I want to have two, three women, whatever, polyamorous relationship, whatever. Or you want to live, no problem. Like like everything. I mean, what do we have? And all this, all the other investments, I locked it up in my trust. Whatever, you can go if you want. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'll do whatever I want. You either stay here, take whatever bullshit I give you. You don't want it. That's why I say it can be an influence. It can be a tool because
Yeah,
it becomes an anchor in
right.
the relationship versus a kingdom relationship, marriage that is built from a foundation of
Yes.
trust and truth and the things. And that is why I'm telling you, go check those people with the present, check the values. A lot of
The
times
value
it's
system
not
is
the same.
off.
Yeah, it's not the same. It is usually something where the other person is like, yeah, I know they have this part, so I'm just gonna take them here, and then I'm just gonna give them this stop here, so you can't do whatever. This is not gonna affect me. She wants to do whatever, and you hear these conversations. And she wants to do whatever. I mean, I made sure I got a prenup and whatever. That's fine. So I know loss. It's not my. So I don't know. So that's why I feel like people need to decide, like even the person who's accepting it, what exactly are you looking for, right? What is it? Because it's not about you wanting their money or whatever. It's the
Mm-hmm.
it's what that means, and the person who is coming in. So and then there's people who that's all, that's what they want. They're really just going to this thing and whatever. But don't come complaining and whatever when either the woman steps out or the man steps out. Because mind you, now we now know what's going on. So what's the use of us feeling like? So literally every day we live, we're living with looking out for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It reduces the idea of looking out for us.
Yeah.
It makes it more, everybody in this marriage is looking out for themselves. Like me, I'm looking out for me. I'm not looking out for you. Because remember, if I do, whatever happens, this might be a problem. Because even with the prenup, sometimes they'll have agreements where even in the marriage, it's not going to be split a certain way. It's not only about what you came into the marriage with. So I just feel like
Mm-hmm.
it can cause a conflict of interest. And like I said, it can be a positive, but it can also be used as a negative tool, especially in
Yeah.
the world we live in today,
Yeah.
with all these things people are doing. So I think, for me, that having agreeing on what you want to do financially is very important because finances in a relationship can bring all of that stuff together. But I ultimately believe that the man is the head of the relationship. And that is why I sort of shift this more to the men. And whatever the man accepts and whatever the man goes, that is the way that relationship is going to go. Matter of fact, I've come to a place where I actually do not blame women for relationships failing anymore. I blame it on men because I feel like you are the one that's leading, right? And so, however you lead is what goes, and that's why I feel like if I'm a man and I'm leading, and I'm the one that brings up that prenup idea, I can use that tool to my advantage. It's bad enough that people don't even have prenups, are still
Mm-hmm.
doing that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like they're
Yeah.
still oppressing other people. And then when you now have that again, it can now be so. I don't know. I definitely have heard about cases where women who've had more money, want to do prenups and everything. I don't know how that works. I feel like that's for the man. Like I said again, that is still going to be the responsibility on the man to accept to that kind of thing. What is your goal? What is your idea of a family? What is your idea of living? What is the idea? Why are you with this person, or what is your dynamic? So I think we need to sit back and think again. And I know, as much as they say you don't know someone or whatever, I still stand by the fact that if you look closely enough, people will show you who they are.
Yeah. True.
People will show you
So.
who they are. I do feel like people are lazy these days to see that,
Mhm.
but people will show you who they are.
So it's interesting that you say when you said that to take a look at the value system, depend just to figure out what people mindset are and the people who are asking for
Mm.
this. So I like to listen to other podcasts beside our own,
Yeah.
because I'm big on evolution. I'm big on growing, developing, and all of that type of stuff. So I listen to a lot of different things in order to gain wisdom and to gain understanding of things. So one of the podcasts I like to listen to is Dear Wifey podcast with
Mm.
what's his name again? Laterial.
Okay.
Laterial on Dear Wifey podcast. And he actually had a discussion or was having a discussion with a wealthy man that says he's definitely having a prenup when he gets married. And one of the young lady that he was courting, the mother told her not to sign the prenup and to walk away or whatever it is after whatever time frame the relationship was. Now, after he decided he no longer wanted to be in a relationship because that was her reaction and all of this type of stuff, she tried to come back later. And his argument is that she didn't even look at the contract to see what was being offered to her, like what she would have benefited from the relationship and what she would have gotten out of it, because he's one of the people that is in that 1%, that 1%
Mm.
wealth gap. It's a very few, it's a small amount of them that is in that 1% wealth gap. So he's like, he's not doing it without a prenup. Now Letarius, that believes in kingdom marriage, he's looking for a kingdom partner and he wants a kingdom relation and a purposeful relationship. That's what his whole thing is about. He's like,
Mm.
he's not going into a marriage with a prenup. He doesn't want a prenup because to him is like, if he can build it once, he can build it again. So if, let's say, it doesn't work out and this person was in it for the wrong reason, he said if God gives him the wisdom, the strength, and the knowledge to build it one time, he can rebuild it another time. So he doesn't believe in the whole prenup thing, but he said he's not knocking anybody that
Yeah.
wants to do it. Especially people in like that gentleman story that I was telling you about that was listening to that episode in their category, that has built a certain amount of wealth. If this is something you want to do, he's not against it. It applies in your world, it applies in your world, but
Yeah.
from where he stands and where he sits, he's not signing a prenup and he's not going to ask for one.
Yeah. And I agree with him. Whatever you
So
can
I
build.
brought it up because you talked about the value system
Yeah, it's
and
a
you
value
brought up
system.
about the whole, kingdom marriage versus
Yeah.
worldly marriages.
Yeah, it's the value system, and I agree with him, which is what I said. I said, God has given me what I do, what I can, and when He gives me, I'll build more if that is the case. But furthermore, I want to tell you something, and I need us to look at this closely. And if we have test cases with the guy who was talking about it, we can go check. Listen, people will only give you rules, values, terms, and conditions when they feel like they're above you. And this is why
Mm,
it's important for you to make yourself so valuable that people cannot give you terms and conditions when they want to get with you. This is the truth. Is chased. True value is chased after. True value is not given terms and conditions. This is the truth. And I dare you, let's go look at all the cases. You will see that in most of
Mm-hmm.
those cases, you want to do, you're in the top 1%, go do your 1%. Stay in the
Oh my
1%.
gosh.
But
Yeah.
here's the thing, you can't say stay in the 1% if you know that you don't have value enough that other people don't have. But if you
Mm-hmm.
have something that is evident to the world that other people don't have, that is not going to apply. It's the same thing with the women when they see a man who they want, all the rules drop. It is the
Mm-hmm.
same thing when a man sees a woman who is a virtue. And this is what I'm saying. Like we need to get to the truth about what is the reasons people are doing this for. And are we doing this for the right reasons? Or are we just saying, you know what, we're just going to pick an option that works? But if you're
Yeah.
looking for someone of virtue where you see the value system stare at you, and you know if I don't get this lady is the light of my life. Baba prenups no go. I'm just coming to my Nigeria accent. It won't apply. It's the same thing. And the same thing for the man. It will not, I'm telling you. Go do,
Oh God.
just like what like you telling me that she came back again. And
Yeah.
he was
He
like,
said she
it already tells me
that,
everything.
but that time, by the time when she tried to come back, he was like, no, is because the way you and your mom went about this situation at first when he proposed and he brought up the whole prenuptial thing, and then he called, they called off the engagement, her and her mom, because she was like, she's not signing a prenup. He said, when you haven't even looked at the contract to see what I was even offering you. If this doesn't work out in the event, what you would have stand to gain. You didn't even look at it. But then she wanted to come back. I think he said maybe a year or 6 months later, she tried to come back and was trying to come back in the sense like negotiate, because when he brought that up to her, both their attention, that you didn't even look at the contract. You didn't even look to see what was being offered before you guys went left with this. He was long moved on by that time, and I guess didn't want to get back into
But
the
that's what
relationship.
I'm saying. That paints the whole
Yeah,
picture of what I'm telling you. That should if
that
she
she
was
wasn't
so
valuable
valuable,
enough to
if she
begin
was so
with.
valuable, it would have been a reverse role. He would have
Yes, she
ran to
wasn't. She was. She's in his world. She is replaceable. So he didn't even fight too much to try to say yes. I guess because I think what her and her mom was trying to do was to throw his bluff. Let's see how he's going to react if we tell him no. We're
the
not moving
first
on
sign,
with this
yeah,
engagement
the
with this.
first sign of someone saying they want a prenup, you knowing who you are as a value. Like me, I don't do prenups. You
Mm-hmm,
want a prenup? I don't do prenups. Oh, then that's gonna be a problem. Bye bye. On your way. So that's fine. I know who I am.
mm-hmm.
The person would think, and when they look at your value system and everything, they will know. And then if that person is not for you, it's not for you. But so it's like, oh, now what you stand to gain. That means you're already looking at the person as someone who's coming to gain and whatever. No, I'm coming to build. If you're coming, it's like I'm coming in this relationship to improve your life, to improve our lives. I'm
That
not
part.
coming here to come and take.
That part.
So if I'm
Yes,
coming to build, what are you telling me about me coming to gain? What
that
have
part.
I not
That part.
gained?
Yeah,
This
that
and
part.
this furthermore goes to the business. Are you a whole person before you go and meet someone else? Because
Mm-hmm.
this is the problem. Are you a whole person who has gotten the things that they want, that you're choosing to be this person because you want them, not because you need them? And these are the things we need to ask ourselves, because I've definitely been in a situation where I felt like maybe I didn't look at these things before, but I've grown now to know. You get, and I tell people, get yourself to a valuable point where people like they need you. They feel like if they don't get you, they're gonna miss you because you know your value system, you know who you are. And that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
He should have been the one going after her. But obviously, like I said, he knows that it's not. And the same thing applies to a woman, no matter, I don't care who you are, when you see a man, when you meet a man who is, no matter how much you make, that woman, all the rules will drop. It is how it is. So
Mm-hmm.
I like to focus on those things to see like what gets people to this place, what gets us to this area of like, oh, we want to do this. It's a whole value thing or whatever, it's like, so that's just my point. And I'm going to give you an example because you talked about a podcast, and I'll probably send the podcast to you. I was also watching Shannon Sharp's podcast, and he was interviewing
Mm-hmm.
this guy. I can't remember his name, and he was asking him about his ex-wife, and he said his ex-wife still has access to all of the accounts. She's dating someone else. Shannon Sharp said, "No, no way, no way you did that." He said, "Yes." He said, "I trust her that much." And you know what's funny? He became even more successful when they were in the marriage and after he got divorced, but she still has access to all of the accounts. She can take
Mm-hmm.
money out. Shannon Sharp said, "So what happens if she takes all this money with this person? Say she wants to go through like a $10 million wedding, $50 million." He said, "It's fine, no problem. I trust her that much. She deserves it. She's a good person. She made me better."
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Value does not hide. Like value is value. So this thing is a result of a value system. So it's like, even the people are like, that girl, whatever. No, 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 no. It's fine. You want to keep your thing. And I've learned that now. Like even if I'm like whatever, like someone comes and say, "Oh, my friend said this." All I need to know is your opinion. Is this where you say it? If it's that, it's bye bye. Like there's no need for us to do all these things that we're doing. People need to focus on the value of themselves. And here's the thing that's really crazy about it. God has given us, all of us, that ability to be able to build our values, build ourselves to such a high first. Matter of fact, building your values is actually a form of worship because you're building the God given things that He's given to you. You're taking care of your body, you're
Mm-hmm.
taking care of your mind, taking care of the way you live. And so for me, I think that is the thing that I'll call people to do because, like I said, if we go and look at the dynamics of most of these relationships that happen, this is what you'll find. There's a place where somebody felt that value. I was listening to, I've forgotten his name. It was on, I think he was on, was it Trevor Noah's show? Or I think it was, he's a very popular, he was on a podcast as well, but he said that they found that the worst breaker of marriage or the worst thing that happens in a relationship that actually breaks relationships and is actually the most painful is when your partner is able to look at you with contempt. It's not even finance. It's not even like for your partner to be able to look at you at some point and be like, "I'm higher than you or I'm
Oh,
more value than you." They said that's the worst form. They said almost when that almost happens every time, the relationship is bound to fail. Well,
wow.
the marriage is bound to fail. I'm going to send you that podcast, Tracy. It said
Yeah.
looking at you is like what it does feel like at some point. It's like, nah, you're not on my level. It's the worst.
Yeah.
And we,
Well,
yeah,
go ahead.
and with prenups, it's like one of those things where I look at it from that point, right? Especially if it comes up so early in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it comes up so early, because it means that you must have seen this person a certain type of way and said, "Listen, I have to put this thing in." When you see someone who's of value who you don't want to lose, you're not calling prenups. You're not. I don't care what anybody says. You're trying to make sure they're in your life for life. Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, you have to send me that when you get a
I
chance
will.
because I like to listen to
Mm,
things in its full context to get a
yeah.
full understanding of things, not just the clips or clickbaits in
Mm,
certain things. So I'm very interested in listening to that. But it's interesting that you said that, Akan. I mean, uh, great points about taking a look at where sometimes these decisions are made out of people's value system.
yeah.
That's what determine. And if you already come into it with all these stipulation, it's because you think that you have more value than the person you're in the
Yeah.
relationship with, or the person that you're trying to engage with. I respect your perspective on it, and I also respect, as I was telling you about Latarius on their
Mm,
Wifey podcast, when
yeah.
he was saying, for as for him, he believes, he's a Christian. He's looking for
Mm,
kingdom marriage. He's looking for a purpose partner. He's looking for, that godly union. And he's
yeah.
like, he's not. He doesn't matter what he's building right now, how many assets he has. He's not doing a prenup because if God gives him the vision, the strength, the wisdom,
Yeah.
the resources to build it, and he lose it all, he can build it
Do it
again
again.
if
Yeah.
the person is not there for the right reason. So I respect all of those perspectives,
Mm,
and they're great. So guys, again, if you're just now joining us in the conversation, we're talking about prenuptial agreements in relationships or people getting into prenuptial agreements into marriage. And there's so many different angles and viewpoints to look at it from, of to, as Akan says, if it applies, it applies.
Mhm.
whatever category you fall in
That's
your
true.
life, whether you're in that 1% or you're not in a no percent, but you still want a prenup because, as I like to say, if you can imagine your life and you can envision it and you can dream it and you work hard at it, you can become it. So if you see yourself 20, 30 years down the line being a multimillionaire and you're getting into a marriage right now or whatever, and you decide, oh, I want a prenup because I know later on I'm about to blow up. I'm about to rack in some papers and I want to make
Maybe
sure
you
that
see yourself becoming a multimillionaire, but you don't see the person you're getting with becoming a multimillionaire.
becoming a multimillionaire. Yeah. So again, it goes back as a concept, the value system and the value which you see the person. So I guess the takeaway from tonight, at least from the conversation between Akan and myself, if the prenup applied to you, it applies to you. If it
Exactly.
works in your world, it works in your world. We're not
Yeah.
saying don't do it. We're not saying not to. We're just saying that there's different coins to look at. There are very different sides of the coin to examine. One of them is it also reflects your value system on how you see not just the value in yourself, but also the value you see in the person. And if you're applying all of these agreements or you're applying all these stipulation to this person and the relationship, that means you don't have that much value in the person that you're getting into the relationship with to begin with, which I think you should vet the value of the person before you decide if this is the person you want to get into a relationship versus getting into the relationship and then applying all of these um, agreements to it. So but again, guys, just let us know what you think about the topic. Let us know what your feedback are, how you feel about what we have said. If you've learned anything, if there's anything you can take away from it, and how you guys feel about the prenup. I guess let me just throw the questions out there.
Yeah.
Do you care for it? Yes or no? Would you sign it? Does it apply in your life? Does it not apply in your life? As I said, I don't know what people economical status are, where you see yourself later on, or whatever the case may be. But whichever way, we're interested to hear from you guys. We're interested to learn from you guys as well. So drop a comment below. And then I guess tune in with us next week for another great show as we dive into another topic and chop it up and try to learn some more in this crazy world that we're all living, navigating life and navigating relationships and trying to figure out all of the best course of action here. We're
Yeah.
all learning. We're all trying to figure out left or right, forward or not forward. So yeah. So again, guys, thank you for joining the Singles Connect community. This I was your host tonight, Stacy-Ann, and my co-host Akan the King, and we will catch you guys next week. Follow us on social media, subscribe, like, and share, and we will catch you guys next week.
All right. Till next week then. Bye, Stacy.
Bye.